I think that the hospitality industry has bad PR and continues to get bad PR, but it's not for everybody, and you have to like people, you have to like change, you have to like personalities, because you're dealing with all of those things every single day, and it's not for everybody. Me personally, I've come alive is on my dinner restaurant or hospitality feed off of it. But whether or not I could still do it at my age, like full time, 52 weeks a year, I feel it sometimes.
Welcome back to the London Food Network podcast, the show where we sit down with the people behind the businesses shaping food, hospitality, and the wider ecosystem that supports it. I'm your host, Sebastian, founder of the Fresh Fish Shop and Embrace AI Consultancy, where I work with growing businesses to streamline operations, marketing, and systems through smart AI automation. Today, I'm joined by Rory Laffan, founder of B Hospitality, a specialist recruitment agency deeply embedded in the hospitality sector. Rory's built a very strong reputation for connecting great businesses with great people and has a refreshingly honest view on the realities of hiring in today's market. In this episode, we talk candidly about the challenges facing hospitality recruitment right now, from the candidate volume and quality to time pressures, culture fit, and how the industry needs to evolve. It's a practical, grounded conversation with someone who's right at the coalface, so let's get into it. Rory, how you doing?
Good morning, I'm very well. You?
Very good, Rory. We won't say the old usual festive, polite questions and whatnot, and small talk. We'll shove that on the side and get straight to it.
Yeah.
So,
Christmas is done.
Christmas is over and done. But we were talking about it anyway, and I guess from an employment point of view, at least a workload point of view, it varies enormously in the hospitality and food industries. And I was saying that in my case, being in food, it just means that you're flat out most of the time until, if you're lucky, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and then it's back on it for the New Year's Eve rush. And for you, you said it was a little bit different though. You took a bit of time off.
Yeah, I'm lucky not to be working sort of direct line on the floor in hospitality anymore, so I just a week off. I was going to take 2 off, but we mentioned beforehand, we had a lot of inquiries over Christmas and the New Year, and as running a small, medium-sized business, you don't hang around, you have to be on it 24/7. I think quality of life for running small, medium businesses, it's an ongoing challenge, but I think if you love what you do, it doesn't necessarily feel like work. So yeah, week off, back on it, and then back into the new year.
Tell me more about your business in the first place, Rory, because your background was always hospitality, wasn't it? You studied at uni, if I remember correctly, and you've been stints with some good prestigious companies and some golfing companies somewhere. Is that right? Events?
Yeah, my mum dragged me into a hotel at 15, found it super exciting, really romantic. I did that for a few years, and then she said I should go to college. I went off to Brighton Uni, studied hospitality and business down there, and you mentioned golf. That's where I then went to work for Leathery and Christopher, part of Compass, and we did large-scale sort of hospitality of major sporting events, racing, arms events, air shows, and Excel. And yeah, that's where I already had the bug, but that's when I really saw what hospitality could be. And working alongside the likes of Albert Roux at the Roux restaurant, that was like, that I was proper hook then.
That's a good highlight. So that's a good hook, isn't it? It's amazing. The food and hospitality industry has this invisible hook that tends to bring you in and at some point will spit you back out. But it's very good at keeping you in it somehow. And obviously from now you progressed into recruitment somehow. So what was that journey like?
That was a really simple one. I came back to Cambridge after working at these amazing events with these amazing people and food offers and stuff, and came back to Cambridge, living at home. Then I had to get a job in hospitality, tried a few country house hotels. Hospitality hadn't really kicked off 20 years ago how it is now. There wasn't the restaurant scene, there wasn't the hotel scene that there is. Worked a few country house hotels, going from Farnborough Air Show, working with the Apache helicopter arms stands, to serving Doris on a Tuesday her afternoon tea. It didn't have the same hook. And then I started talking to a local recruiting company, and they were trying to find me a job, and similar sort of routine, same sort of jobs. And then they got fed up with me and said, "Look, come and work for us." So I did, and then that's when the hospitality scene started kicking off. The use of James Italian coming into the market looked fine. It's in Cambridge anyway, and then we started working on a wider sort of level in London. And then that sadly closed after about 18 months. And I was wanted to open my own company, did another stint did another event season for Compass, Leatherby, Christopher, came back and then fully got into B, really. And then that's a separate story, but then that started my journey with B, and we are where we are today, hopefully with a little bit more knowledge and experience to 20 years ago.
So how old were you when you went up on your own?
Good question. I think I was 20. No, I think it was 25. I'm now 48, so it's more than 20 years ago.
Right, mate. So that's a young age, though, actually. Similar to me. I was 24 when I took on my business, and at the time I didn't think anything of that. But looking back now and looking at other people that age, can you imagine this generation? It's like 24, 25 is a very young age to take on that sort of responsibility, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, what was you say you got pushed into it, but we always have choices.
I wasn't pushed into it because it's something I really enjoy, but I don't think still at that age I wanted the responsibility of paying tax bills, and I was probably scared of commitment still because I'd be travelling around with work and the freedom to move here, there and everywhere. But having your own business changes things for you. But it was, I'd say, the best move I ever made. I think it was. I think I certainly enjoy what I do now a lot more than I did then. And I don't know if that's me or the market, or but I certainly I get a lot more satisfaction from what I do now. I don't know about you. How have you changed as a business owner in 20 odd years?
I must admit that it was a very love and hate relationship for a long time. But I think new businesses in general, I think that's the kind of general consensus, really, especially when you're young and you're relatively inexperienced, and you take on something like running a business, which on the outside always looks simpler than what it is. But running a business is a full-time, 24/7 thing. People talk about work-life balance, but that just doesn't exist when you especially start a business. You just cannot. You got to go where the money is because you need the money to survive, and that's it. It doesn't come on a tap that switches on and off when you need it to. You got to get it, and when the tap is on, you've got to accumulate, and as simple as that. Because you never know when that tap is going to be shut off or some problem is going to happen. So you've always got this you develop this, feast or famine type thinking, which in the beginning is, I think, quite stressful. And I guess it really tests your determination, persistence, your commitment. And then at some point you push through. If you keep pushing like anything, you push through and you get to a plateau where you think, actually, that's all right. Things are running better now. You've employed maybe a couple of people. You understand things better now. You know how to mitigate a little bit better, like risk, rewards, how to analyze opportunities. You start learning to say no more. And hopefully as the business grows, you make more money and you can employ more people. And I think certain challenges continue throughout running a business. But I think it's nice when you reach a point where you know what you're doing, you've got a team, you understand the market, and you've got that kind of quiet confidence, I guess.
Yeah, for me anyway, when I first started the business, and I come across, very rarely do I come across these Stephen Bartlett's of the world that are just fanatically disciplined on building this huge worldwide multi-billion-dollar business. I certainly wasn't in that camp. I was there to work, have fun if I could at work, and then probably pay for my holidays, pay for my first house and things like that. But I don't think I had much drive and ambition above that, which I look back on and I deeply regret in many ways, but I suppose I wouldn't have had the life I had. But I feel quite lucky. As I get older, I get more enthusiastic, more driven, more focused, I don't know if that's because you have children, you have more responsibilities, you get older and wiser, or you just grow up. But I definitely turn up with more drive than I did 24 years ago, I think it is now.
Maybe because you've reached a lot of pillars of achievement in your life. And
I think it's maybe because I haven't reached them.
well, I don't know, it depends what you do, man. But you got kids, you got a wife, you got a side hustle as well. Your pizza van, is it?
Yeah, we got pizzas on the side, which we do in the summer. But I think the thing that I've learned is, I think the one thing is, if you don't feel that you've reached your full potential, you're never satisfied. And I don't feel like I've reached my full potential personally. And
what is your goal then? Where do you need to be at to feel that you have?
World domination and a yacht in Monaco. No, I just think it's a hard question to answer, but I just think I could be helping more businesses, more people, using my experience over 24 years to have better conversations rather than having conversations that people want to hear, and you actually get a lot more satisfaction from it. So I work with fewer people, I do now, than I did then. Life was much easier 24 years ago. It used to have an email on Monday with a list of requirements from 20 different companies, and it was like a kid in a sweet shop. Now you have to work hard to work with the people that you want to work with. You have to work hard with your candidates, find them jobs they actually want to work with. So there's a lot more depth to it. I think it's not as simple, nor should it be. It's more complicated now.
Yeah, well, surely that's also because just everything's changed and you've changed as well. So back in the beginning, you didn't know as much on perhaps what you were doing, what it actually was like to work for different types of company or work with certain kinds of candidates. And it's only over time you develop almost a sixth sense, surely, about the kind of people you want to avoid and swerve, the kind of people you want to invest more time in. Do you know what I mean? And that only comes with the experience you got 24 years in. Because the reason I'm saying this, Rory, is that for many of us in business, we never actually look back and appreciate just how much we've actually achieved, right? Because we're forever chasing the next step, the next goal, the next milestone, the next yacht in Monaco or whatever it may be. But actually, if you actually sit down and just kind of look back at all the things that you have learned over time, it's quite a lot, isn't it? It's 24 years of cumulative knowledge from trial and error.
It's so true, because who's going to listen to a 26-year-old? If you're talking to an operator who's in their 40s with 20 years experience, they're not going to listen to a 26-year-old, the prudent consultant. Potentially they shouldn't do, but you're right, after 24 years of dedicating my life to recruitment and companies and businesses, you're right. My wife sits opposite me sometimes and she does our finances, and she's, if only you knew that much about life at home. I probably spent too much time. But you're right. It's amazing what you pick up over the years.
Also, I don't know about you, but it's the same for me. I was never this Steve pilot that wanted to take over the world. I guess I had brief moments of thinking I was Alan Sugar at the time and expanded a bit too quickly and almost lost everything. But you can realise that actually, for me, I learned this phrase, which was turnover is vanity and profit is sanity. And I've carried that with me since, and I've shaped my business around that, because it's the same with me. I could have sold to bigger players, been cheaper, got broader market share, had more vans, more employees, felt like I was the big man, but really a lot of these companies make like almost zero profit. A lot of them go under as well, because food in general is a very tough industry to run, and you can very quickly go south and lose everything. Do you know what I mean? And if you expose yourself too much by trying to be this conquering force, then you jeopardize quite significantly the actual longevity of your business, but also integrity. I think for me, it's like, I'd rather be dealing with less customers that I get along really well with and I'm proud to work with, than to get a load of people that are going to, quite frankly, piss me off half the time. I have trouble paying the bill, have all those excuses, having unrealistic expectations. So for me, I learned just to say, okay, look, that's not me. Here's the competition. Go and approach them.
100%. Yeah, 100% working. with companies that you can actually work with, partnership with, be part of their journey and their growth, rather than just taking a brief. They're trying to deliver on a brief. There's no satisfaction in that, and also it often goes wrong. I totally agree. When our team shrunk after COVID, I think there was 2 or 3 of us working in our team in London. Just talking about, we made more profit then than we did when we had 10 people working for us. And that was exactly what you said. The findings that we work with, better quality relationships, and doing better quality work. And that's been a bit of a vein over the last couple of years. Is we are growing slowly with a consultant in the Middle East now, and another key hire at the back end of last year. But all great people, all lots of experience. And more importantly, as we've spoken about this before, we've got systems and structure and process in place, which sounds boring, and I thought I'd never want it, but ultimately it gives our internal guys better tools, and it delivers a better service to both our candidates and clients.
Right.
It's about being transparent, it's about being responsible to them, and not just recruitment's a bit of a dark art sometimes. It's a bit like an estate agent. You trust your estate agent? Sorry, estate agencies, but it's a bit like we've got under that banner, but it's not like that. Recruitment done properly, there's a great deal of depth to it, and there's a great deal of research, and there's a lot of conversations that you need to have with people respectfully to make that great match. And you can't do that on scale unless you have a great big team, and that's my aim, is to go slowly but have a lot more knowledge and care in the company going forward.
I guess that's been the mold, if you like, that shaped your business to today. And I mean, you're probably being modest, Rory, but it might be worth you name dropping a little bit some of the people you're working with, because you work with some pretty cool names that are fairly new on the scene and doing pretty well. You work with all kinds of big and small businesses, but some good names out there.
We literally work with some of the best restaurant brands in the UK, and everybody knows Blacklock, everybody knows Pizza Pilgrims. These are companies we've worked with for some 10 years. We work with international companies. Had a call this morning with a company with 500 restaurants in Singapore, advising them on the type of recruit that they need to launch their business in the UK. And we have a big stretch of restaurants, hotels, member stops. But there's always one familiar vein. One of my best, the biggest achievement I think in the last quarter was a luxury cookie concept. Who would have thought I'd be recruiting CEO to a luxury cookie concept? And we had a whole 3 or 4 month process with that, and the whole world changed, and it was a bit of a nightmare in the middle, but we stuck with it, the relationship was good, and then we delivered an exceptional candidate who started in January. But the vein is the relationship and understanding, the accountability that you have. If you have that, it doesn't matter if it's cookies or if it's luxury lifestyle. It's the same photos, it's just a different skill set.
So what sets you apart then, Rory? What's your process like then? Do people come to you, or do you tend to go to people in terms of clients to work for? Do they find you, or do you find them, or is it a case of referrals? Like, what's your...
90% of the business that we work with is referrals through friends that we've worked with over years and their contacts. Some is driven through Google and Instagram and things like that, but mainly it's word of mouth. There's a big trust element to recruitment. Things do go wrong, and when it goes right, everyone's happy. You send out your product, or we're dealing with our candidates. Sometimes it goes wrong. We're dealing with people. We're dealing with lots of sets of people. It's how you can have those conversations to resolve that problem, and there's always a solution to every problem. So I think it's having that understanding and relationships with people. But I think the one big thing that I've implemented over the last 6 months is having those conversations sooner rather than later, because we meet a lot of new people on a weekly, daily basis. So I try and set the scene and try and get a real kind of understanding.
Manage expectations early on.
Yeah, not everyone's gonna like me or the way that we do things, and vice versa. There's a lot of recruitment companies out there. There's a lot of hospitality businesses out there. So I think it's just about finding. And ultimately, I want people to stay in roles that they enjoy, and I want them to help the companies grow and develop. That is honestly my ultimate aim. that's what I do it for. Being paid at the end of the project is always a bonus when you do get paid. But it's that phone call after a year. It's someone calls you from Barbados, the Cayman Islands, to say you've changed my life. The client says he's elevated the food on the islands. That's the bit nice. That I love. And I'm sure for you, I don't know, is when you kindly send me some fish out, I phone you and say that's the best fish I've had all year, which it was. That for me is
that's the kind of validation. That's the ultimate validation, isn't it? Money's good, but it's more, I don't want to say materialistic, because there's a big negative connotation about wanting to earn money and liking money. But for me, money is not. Money is what it represents in terms of freedom. That's the amount of money you have has a direct impact on the amount of freedom you have, and I think that's what, to me, money represents, is freedom. So I don't give a shit about money as such, but I want to have my freedom, and I know that in today's world, money unfortunately will facilitate that. But if we're talking about satisfaction and actual rewards, if you like, for the fruits of my labor, yeah, absolutely. Getting like that really good positive feedback from somebody, or someone actually going out of their way to express their gratitude for something, that's absolutely the biggest kind of satisfaction you can get from running a business, really. And also actually seeing your team thrive, that's a good one. I really enjoy seeing my team thrive and develop themselves and progress in the business. That's another really nice validation that you can go for in a business, is to see your team thrive and progress.
Yeah, because you're right to mention the team, because over the years we've had lots of people that have worked for us for periods up to 10 years, and a lot of them have gone out to open their own recruitment companies, and some really successful, and whether or not they would have done it with me or without me, probably they would have done. Hopefully at the time they worked with me, they had a good time. Like any business, we had up and down times, but they've gone on to do great things. And currently the people that work with us now, exactly right. Money, I'm not driven by money singularly. I'm driven by what I just mentioned. Helping businesses grow, people grow. Sounds a bit like a catchphrase, but that gets me up in the morning. It's the fear of not having any money, probably. Which is the element to it, but it's not my primary motivator. And I think, especially in recruitment, if money's your primary motivator, you're going to make the wrong decisions, and you're not going to be able to operate in that truly honest way, because you're just going to be thinking about, will Sebastian take this person on? Will I get paid my fee? And I used to kick myself for not being more money motivated. I thought I should be. I thought I should be. But it's actually coming 360 now. Restaurants, the best restaurants, are not cost driven. They don't drive down the quality of the product, they don't drive down their labour. They do, but they often see decline, because the consumer can feel that. But it's the great restaurants, and I go back to Blacklock and Pizza Pilgrims for these in this one, is obviously they're commercial, but their main focus is their team. Their main focus is their people. They know by treating those guys well, their company will grow because they're having a good time. Their guests will have a good time. Most restaurants forget that if the team is not happy, the guests won't be happy. And full well, we were into Pizza Pilgrims before Christmas, but full well, if you walk into a restaurant and the team's miserable, unless you're having like this high intensity business meeting, that's going to rub off on you. You're not going to come out and have a good. You're not going to come out and have a good time, and that's probably because, I don't know, it could be for anything, but it's probably because the labour's been slashed and their rota's not being delivered on time, or it's going to be how they treat their people.
Yeah, there's 1,000 reasons why you would get a disgruntled team, isn't it? But it's important to think about, and you're right, I agree. And sometimes money is not what drives your team either. A lot of the times it's actually appreciating what they do, recognizing what they do, and trying to build a culture where, for me, in my business, you'll find me cleaning a toilet if need be. Like, I'm the kind of guy that will do any part of the role of the business as and when he's doing, because I want to be able to demonstrate, it doesn't matter who you are in the business, whether you're the owner or the part-time guy that's just come in, we're all equally important to make this business successful. And I think that's been quite a good kind of staff retention code, if you like, that I've developed, which I think works well. And it's that I place myself as an equal to everybody in the business, and I'll get my hands dirty when it needs to be. I'll do anything that it requires, And I'm always there to answer things personally as well from people. And I think with the food industry, generally speaking, is bad pay, long hours. There's a lot of shitty jobs you got to do. Do you know what I mean? It's not the most glamorous job in the world, but you can have a lot of fun, and you can develop a culture where it actually feels like something fun to do. And I think that's probably the best kind of achievement I guess you can do in a food business.
There's been loads of surveys done across restaurant teams and hospitality teams. Money's not the primary priority for most people. It's in the top 3, but it's more about company culture and how they're developed, looked after, treated, and sharing visions and values that they come across money. But going back to your point about hospitality, when you compare it to other industries, you know what? Yeah, the hours can be longer and the hours can be slightly more unsociable. Salaries are really comparable to a lot of other industries now.
That's true. It's changed now, to be fair. Now it has, yeah.
They've increased massively. General managers' salaries for most branded corporate restaurants who go into now, they're probably earning about 60,000, maybe more. People like Nando's have managing partner bonuses. These guys are on lawyers' salaries, and maybe not. I don't know exactly how much a lawyer's salary is. But that's probably talking bullshit. But they're on they're on an income that they can live and have a happy life with these days. It's a bit of a misconception, but I know what you're saying. I think that the hospitality industry has bad PR and continues to get bad PR, but it's not for everybody, and you have to like people, you have to like change, you have to like personalities, because you're dealing with all of those things every single day, and it's not for everybody. Me personally, I come alive is on my dinner restaurant or hospitality and feed off of it. But whether or not I could still do it at my age, like full time, 52 weeks a year, I feel it sometimes. But,
and I think the one theme I've found with not just my life experience in the food industry, but also the podcast, for example, is that the food industry is one of these kind of, and hospitality, with drink hospitality, it's all the same, but it's like an industry where it's a bit like the army, right? You can go in there at any level, from any color, race, sex, age, doesn't matter. You can go in there with no experience whatsoever, and then you can carve your own path, and you can end up being any professional of any kind of discipline on the planet, because you can develop financial skills, you can develop sales skills, cookery, operations, management, recruitment, HR, health and safety, food safety. The scope of opportunity out of the food and hospitality sectors, like unlimited. And I often find actually it's almost like university to me is just such an overhyped waste of money to a lot of people. Not everyone, but to a lot of people that go down the path of going to university to study something they're never really going to actually use and get themselves into a ton of debt. And yes, of course, it's fun. I've been to uni. It's good fun. Actually, we went to the same uni. But ultimately, if I was armed with the same knowledge I got now, and I was to go back in time, I think I would have actually gone in and done either an apprenticeship somewhere or just gone into hospitality and stuck at it, because actually the kind of progression and the opportunities that present themselves, if you're good in hospitality, you actually grow quite quickly within the whatever business you're in, if it's a fertile ground, right?
The speed and development and opportunity, exactly like you're saying, hospitality, particularly restaurants, is unbelievable. You get exposure to some amazing people in leadership roles. You get to see marketing, finance, operations, food safety, property, recruitment, HR. It's really the world is your lobster. I see such, going back to personality is one of the biggest things that we look for in a lot of our roles. We like to see people that has something different that they can bring, because ultimately the best leaders have huge levels of energy and they're able to inspire people around them. And that's one of the most challenging things that I find, is to find that person with that ability that just lights up the room. Teams, the younger generation I think has that view. What we mentioned earlier is hospitality is a part-time job, it's something we're going to do, something I don't want to get into. But if you have with the right mindset, you never know what you're going to end up doing. You never know. And it can take you all around the world
Yeah, exactly, literally. Yeah, that leads me to my next question. So obviously, 24 years in business, Rory, there must have been some pretty savage moments along the way. What's been the most kind of significant, life-changing moment in terms of a problem you may have experienced and how you got through it?
Personal or professional, or
It's both, isn't it? When you run your own business, they're intertwined, aren't they?
there's one event, and it's a bit personal, and I won't make it sad, but when my wife got breast cancer, this after the birth of our second child, when she was 30, and this illness is never good, ever. Nobody ever wants to get cancer, but when you're running your own business and you then become a carer for looking after other people and the person that's sick, and the downside about running your own business is no one else is going to do it. No one else is going to pay you unless you're working in it. So that was a huge personal hurdle to get over, and I'm grateful for when we wake up on a Monday morning and everybody's well and healthy. So for sure. Professional, they continue to happen. They continue to happen. Professional, I don't know if there's one in particular that I could put out there, which is the biggest one. The one thing that really gets me still, and I don't know if you get this, is people that don't pay small businesses on time. We still get a huge amount of people that delay payments or don't want to pay. That's an ongoing challenge, but it's one that I'm still navigating.
Yeah, same with us. We almost went under in the past from people not paying us, quite frankly, because we're doing a very low margin industry and the volumes are big. So all it takes is a couple of people, big accounts, not to pay you on time, and that puts you in a really sticky position. And if you expose yourself too much and then they decide not to pay at all or they go under, then you really expose yourself to a point where it's difficult to recover from. But having said that, that experience of almost losing the business to this kind of problem, we've really tightened up what we do, and that's part of what I was saying earlier. Like nowadays, even if it looks like a really good account, unless I know they're going to pay and we give them tight credit terms, we are quite ruthless these days. Because from the way I see it is, if you need that much credit, but you really want our product, there's a problem. Because if you want our product because you genuinely want to stock that product, then adhering to our pretty reasonable credit terms should go hand in hand. Because at the end of the day, I'm not a bank, and we can't bankroll everybody. Now, at the same time, I can look at it from the other way, and when we have been through financial difficulties, then we are the ones that are delaying payments to our suppliers, because we're in a position where we just physically can't pay everyone on time. So I see it from both sides, but what the difference is, I think, is communication. If you're someone that just ignores the phone calls, ignores the emails when you know you've got to pay a bill, that's really out of order. But for us, when we are short on payments, we just communicate all the time. We just let people know what's going on, we keep them up to date on everything, and we try and involve them in that process.
You're totally right, communication. We work with quite a few small businesses, and if that communication's there, whether or not it's funding waiting to come in, whether or not it's whatever, big bills, as soon as they're communicating, we can work with people around that. We're the same. It goes back to working with the right clients. We work in a few industries that do all of our work for free, and that can be anything from a couple of days to a couple of months without getting paid. And then when the person that we've helped find a new role starts, we then wait again. Partly, we now work with most of our clients in partnership, and that partnership just means that they commit to working with us. Sometimes they find their candidates directly, which is absolutely fine. They communicate that to us. We then become a lot more communicative at our end. We talk about our shortlists, we're accountable, we're transparent, we share the same goal. So when it doesn't work out, we all know why. So then when the next role comes up, we all go again. We understand. But and we often, especially when it's overseas or we know that there's a big research piece on it, we'll often ask for a small percentage up front. And it's just to show commitment. We're committed all to doing this. And that's been a big game changer for us, because if we're working on a role and I'm not bringing you for you as a senior role, me and you are talking every week, we're talking about people that we've met, we've spoken to, issues that we're having. You know that I've got your back. And equally so, I know what you're doing internally in your business, and you end up with a much better result for everybody, not just for me, but for the person that's going to come and join you and for you as well. And doing it in that way, the success rate is nigh on 100%. Obviously, people's lives change, dramatic things can affect their performance or even their decision in the first place, but communication, 100%. Communication is fundamental to what we do. It is like the cornerstone, the bedrock. With that in place, everything works out. The results are much better. The relationship's much better for everybody.
Nice. Thanks, Rory. I really appreciate your time on the podcast. That was a brilliant conversation with Rory from Be Hospitality, full of insight into what's really going on behind the scenes in hospitality recruitment today. I appreciate your honesty as well with your wife's illness. I obviously know of your wife making it through fine, so I guess sometimes these challenges are good in the kind of silver lining because, like you said, this daily gratitude is something that a lot of us don't have. We don't often appreciate what we do have, and we worry so much about bullshit material things that actually ultimately what really matters is our health, right? That our loved ones around us are happy, healthy, and living well. Everything else ultimately comes and goes.
There's a saying, isn't there? You've always got 1,000 problems, but as soon as you lose your health, you've only got one problem.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's exactly right. And I think that daily gratitude is something I'm trying to work on much more these days because it's so powerful, you know what I mean? When you do appreciate that we live every day as if we've got unlimited number of days. But we literally don't know. It's the same with your wife. From one second to the next, your life can change completely. And all of a sudden, all those priorities you feel you have that were important just go somewhere else. You know what I mean? It's such an important, powerful thing in that attitude.
And our team, I talk to so many different people every day. You never know what's going on in their life. You never know what struggles that they're facing. And you might not ever know, but you have to treat people with respect and kindness. Or else, what's the point? But yeah, thank you for your time.
No, thank you, Rory. Really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this episode, please follow the London Food Network podcast. Share it with someone in the industry and let us know your thoughts. This podcast is supported by Embrace AI Consultancy, where we help ambitious businesses work smarter by reducing manual workload and building scalable systems for growth. I'm Sebastian Candelon. Thank you for listening. I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, Rory.